G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, supshq.com.au. Use code BENS15 at checkout to receive 15% off on your next purchase. G'day, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Matter Mentality podcast, where we talk all things training, nutrition, psychology to help you optimize your performance. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, colleague, friend, all of it, whatever you want to call it. We've had more than enough cross interaction that everyone's probably going to know who you are by now, but we'll do the introductions anyway. I'm joined by Big Ben Scott from STC. How you doing, mate?
Very well. How are you, sir?
Mate, as we just discussed off air, I am in a very first world problem week, but you know, that's what we live and breathe for, right?
Too much success. Oh no.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, my business is happily taking off and people are recognizing. God, how
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I've been playing with this like line in my head. I hate using the term mantra, but it's kind of one of those.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, stop complaining for shit you asked for.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I messaged Scaff last night and I was just like, oh man, I actually almost had like a bit of an anxiety, not a panic attack. Like I do get anxiety sometimes, but more so mine's like, how do I make this optimal or how to make this work? Anxiety. So I'm like, okay, so this has to, this, and I'm like, 10 more clients if they do this. I'm like, oh fuck, like this. I'm like, because you know, as we know, you don't ever want to trade off quality of service for quantity of client. I'm not looking for a 12-week challenge. I'm looking for 10, 20, 30 clients that want to stay full time. So for me, I was like, right, that next 10, what does that look like? What does that look like? What does that look like? And I'm just sitting there like, oh fuck, it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm finishing my assignment. I should probably go to sleep. Like, what a problem to have. I'm keeping myself awake, worrying about how I can take care of these clients and making sure they're looked after.
Yes. Yeah. That's my like 3 a.m. ritual when shit gets like crazy. It's like 3 a.m. solve all of the world's problems and then go back to sleep.
On top of all of my business success, how can I end world hunger? Just stockpile that problem list. Why not? But mate, there is a lot for us to dive into. We are swapping roles this time around. I'm going to try and have my host ears on and less of my rambling shit and talk for 30 minutes straight. I've had modafinil, but it's more so I'm alert and taking you in as opposed to me doing the talking.
Yeah, I had made sure I had 2 double coffees today so I could keep up with you. We should be okay. But it is weird though. I think we've done like 250 episodes now. And like coming on someone else's podcast and trying to shut the fuck up is so challenging.
Oh, it is, hey. I love it because I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I forget that I'm the host. Like, I'll get excited about something someone else is talking about. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I got to ask you, I got to keep this going.
Yeah, my job's to make you talk.
It's always like an interesting one for me because I'm like, yeah, you got to swap that hat over and just sort of like, stimulate the question, but not interrupt too much.
Yeah. Jace has just taken over the STC Fit pod. As like official host, so he chooses topics and all of that. And it's like for me not to be consciously like, okay, the conversation's going in this direction now. I'm like, nope, shut up. I'm just here to answer questions.
They look pretty on this one.
That's it.
My mate, that's literally kind of I guess what'll be the premise or preface to the conversation is like a lot of our team, a lot of our guys, but also a lot of our listeners are well into training. They're well into business, or they're looking to get into business, looking into coaching. So I thought, what better to discuss business success, business taking off, getting into coaching, being more versed in coaching, because I have, I think, a more one-to-one role of mentoring for my coaching clients that are taking off versus you guys that have a lot more systemized approach. So I think it's going to be a really productive conversation there to sort of expand on, you know, how people can be better. And yeah, kind of just because we also share a lot of similar values in terms of, I want to say success, but I know people hate that word, but you know what, fuck them. Success, results, drive, purpose. Like we share very similar values in those directions. So I think it's going to be a very productive chat that there's going to be a lot of takeaways from in that regard. And obviously we're throwing some powerlifting shit that, you know, 3x5, rest for 10 minutes, eat Doritos during breaks. Yes. We'll also talk about some weightlifting, whatever you guys do. You call it training.
Something. Move barbells from A to B. I actually just wrote the most bro program ever for myself. It's fucking delightful.
What is it? Chest, push? No.
I think there's like a total of 14 sets of legs. Everything
Nice.
else is just like upper, heaps of chest, heaps of shoulders, heaps of arms. I saw some photos from our trip to see you guys in Brisbane. And I was like, I really need my chest and shoulders to fill out a shirt the way my ass fills out a pair of shorts.
Says no female ever.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my strategy.
Nice. Can't argue with that. It's it's good. It's good even seeing when like powerlifting coaches can get across the whole like getting across to set volume. Like I know you know it, but then you'll see like I'll see powerlifting coaches describe it as like pump work or something like that. I'm like, bro, why don't you want muscle? Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense to me to have more muscle everywhere if you're trying to lift big numbers.
I saw one the other day that was wasn't even row of choice, it was pull of choice. And I was like, there's so much scope to play within that for a direct adaptation to the outcome. Like,
yeah,
pull of choice, like what do you mean? Like, and even just from a fatigue standpoint, it's like, okay, so they AMRAP their pull up, or they do a half kneeling single arm cable row. Like, they are not the same.
Is that has to be to like just a Gen Pop move more kind of group, surely?
Competitor.
What?
Yeah. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
Ah, man, like I know we say
Yeah.
simple is key, but sometimes like specificity matters.
Yeah, I see a lot of it like with arms and stuff like that. Like you said, the pump stuff, like biceps of choice, triceps of choice, which personally I still think is a waste, because there's like, for a powerlifter, most common injuries are shoulders and elbows. Is like there's actually good positions you can put yourself in to do a bicep curl to fucking aid that stuff. Like, every powerlifter has shit external rotation. Maybe you could use that at some point, and then it won't be so shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can kind of see past that. But fuck yeah, a row of choice. I was like, whoa, that's what considerations are going into your programming where you've got that much scope for them.
Yeah, that's putting a lot of trust in the client to self-select.
Yeah.
But even to that degree, like you're looking at what are you trying to achieve out of it? Like even if it's a novice lifter, even if it's an advanced lifter, like I think you know what you're doing, or I think I know that you know what you're doing. You're like, but I'm paying you to tell me.
Yeah.
That's fucking. I mean, hey, each their own.
Good times.
I'm hopefully they've got plenty of clients. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But mate, look, we've had plenty back and forth, and I know probably on your podcast by now that's more and well and truly established from where STC came from in the humble beginnings. But for everyone who is not aware or hasn't listened before or hasn't heard us chat shit for 4 hours straight, give us the Ben Scott background of STC and the rundown and kind of where it all kicked off.
Yeah, so I guess right now we basically have two businesses within the STC group, or the brand, similar to what you guys are doing with the expansion there. So we've got STC Fit, which is a direct to trainer business. So all things training, nutrition, mindset, a little bit, recovery, anything that involves going to the gym, getting stronger, getting leaner, hashtag look fuckable, that kind of approach. Then we have STC Learn, which I'm still learning to say because we've just changed it from STC Fit Learning to STC Learn because we're rebranding, which is designed for the coach. Yeah. So education for personal trainers and coaches to try and our underlying goal there is to create careers in fitness. So if you have a look around at like the age group of most personal trainers, there's not many PTs or coaches for that matter that are over 27. It's like, once the engagement ring comes along, we want the house, we want the car, we want the whatever, I have to go get a quote unquote real job because I can't sustain this lifestyle, which it doesn't need to be that way. And for every other small business owner that exists on the planet, that's not the goal, is to fucking go get a real job later. Like, that is your career and that's what you're trying to build. So that's the target from there. So personally been a trainer for 12 years, I think, something like that. It's been too long. I stopped counting. And then doing the trainer education since 2016, which is a frighteningly long time now. You guys were at Fit College for a period, or doing like stepping? Yeah, so that was kind of, so we launched what's still available, a service that we offer, which is like our mentorship, which is Kind of like a franchise model, but if the tax office ever asks, it's not a franchise model. Where basically the goal is to bring people in. Nowadays it's focused on 12 months. Back then it was like permanently, where you come in, you're basically an STC fit trainer for your first year. So imagine going into the gym and actually having the business structure, the programs, the websites, the social medias, the resources, the systems, all of that, all the videos, all of that put in place for you, sales structures, everything's done, plug and play, show up. So that's what we started with. And I don't know if you saw, but I laughed when you said you have a much more systemized approach and you kind of do things one-on-one. We fucking did not at the start. So basically we went from 0 to 17 trainers in about 18 months, 2 years.
70 or 17?
17.
Yep.
So we're doing about 350 to 400 sessions a week across the group.
Nice.
Yeah, which is fucking wild. But nothing was online, nothing was systemized. Our clients got a G Drive, but that was basically it. And then all of our education was hands-on. So everyone was in Melbourne, everyone caught up face-to-face. Our education was written as we sort of went. Which ultimately led to us just being cooked. Made a shitload of money and then got to the point where we're just like, we can't do this anymore. Jason and I both had still 40, 50 session PT businesses, plus running all that. The time intensitiveness of that was like, this is fucked. So we instead went away and thought like, okay, well, what do personal trainers need and what's missing? What's the gap between having a sustainable income, efficient business, and something that people can actually do into their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and actually make a career out of it. And then we made that into a course and started going to the public instead of internal. So that's what's now called Standout PT. So then we have 2 avenues. So basically, if you're brand new coming out of the course, like out of your certificates, go into the mentorship, learn everything you need to learn in your first year, skip 5 years of development. If you're already started or you just like, you're really passionate about building your own brand, then Standout PT gives you all the structure that you need to put in place to do that. Because I think like, aside from people that put pool of choice in their programs, most people are decent at getting results for their clients. Like we run this scorecard that's the clients fill out like when they come through either applications, or they can go and do it and just get a bunch of resources to help where their business is struggling. 9 times out of 10, they'll score over 85, if not into the 90% of how they perceive their technical skills, their ability to get the client in front of them a result. But they have no clients. And I think like,
I'd say that's wishful thinking.
Well, yeah, like it depends on the standard, right? Like if you work at a health club and you've got to train Jane, it's like move better, eat well, all of those kind of things. Like most trainers can do that. When it comes into specialization, which is something we teach as well, like physique comps, powerlifting, athletes, rehab, all that kind of shit. But to coach general population, most people have the skill set that they need to do it. But they don't have any clients. They've got no sales systems. They've got no system at all in terms of, they don't even know who they're training. They're trying to train Jane like they train themselves or whatever. That's where the system comes in. It's like, cool, this is actually how to run a business, and this is what a business looks like. That you were never told, and it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to fix it.
It's like having gone through, I know exactly what you're talking about. My first run at coaching, I was the most advanced PT and S&C coach in my gym, yet I had no clients coming through from the leads. I had no one describe what I could do properly. I myself was completely laxed in terms of like content education, marketing, like what I could do. But here I was writing, like, I remember it was my first exposure to, I made the typical like PT mistake when I started. The typical sort of, I want to write these like awesome as fuck periodized programs. I just learned about in my S&C, like just learned about like periodization and mesocycling, fatigue reduction, accumulating data to equate for total load production. I had this full spreadsheet that was working out numbers and scales. I had probably 2 people that needed it, and I had 30 sessions a week. And that was just
those models work really well when your client's like, my kid was sick, I didn't come to the gym 2 days last week.
Literally. And I was just like, that to me was such a click in my head where I'm like, I'm not even set up just to handle who I have in terms of like what they want. And it was just such a completely missing part of the education model. And I went to a pretty decent, like I would say decent PT school in terms of like how long the course was, what they made you do, the hands-on experience, the actual education. Like it was pretty good compared to what's out there. But even that, I had to go on and do an advanced diploma in business so that I could be a little bit more aware. And even from that, the actual stuff they taught me in business and sales, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing worth being like what I teach my guys now. It's what I like try to drive home to my younger guys. I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about coaching, or like, you know, I'm getting into business, or I want to get better at online coaching. I'm like, take from me what you can. Let me because I know where you are and where you've been and how shit it is, let me give you everything, because that gap, that education gap between like just thinking having PT skills and having business skills is the same thing is so big. Like that gap itself is fucking huge. And I've got like a kind of like a comparison to me is like when we perceive nutrition as really easy, and then you speak to somebody like, oh, you know, I know about nutrition, you should just pick it up and know it. And we work with the Karen who's got no idea, but we'll educate or we'll talk a little bit about it, presuming that you know. And the fucking gap is usually worldwide.
Yeah, no, I eat heaps of protein. I had some oats for breakfast and I had peanut butter in the afternoon.
That's rice.
Yeah. says protein on the box. Must be right. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And like you said, we were with ARPT at the time, and we facilitated that course for a couple of years, mainly as like a recruitment drive for the mentorship. So we could handpick the people we wanted.
Yeah.
And like, you got to come to the defense of the course a little bit, because and I know you have this frame of mind as well, like the responsibility, not your fault, but responsibility kind of thing. Absolutely, when you work your way up the chain and you have a look what's happened. When I got my cert, basically they were government funded. So I think I paid like $890 for my course. Yeah. It was a $5,000 course and the government paid the rest. Yeah. So who do you have coming in getting qualified as personal trainers? It's like 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, mostly. So are they going to pay? It's hard enough to get them to pay the $5,000 that's due now. Are they going to pay 10, 15, 20 for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years to become a personal trainer? No. Like they don't have it, and B, it's like, I don't really see the value in that. I'd probably just go to university. So then if you're an RTO, if you're Fit College, ARPT, whatever, name it, you've got to come to the market with the product that the student's willing to buy. Yes. And that is a predominantly online model. So you can't complain that you don't get enough practical knowledge, because no one's fucking buying it. Yeah. Like, we're not, like, the whole country is not sold out with practical workshops every single weekend. Yes. Because personal trainers all think they know better already. So if they can't sell it, then it's not a viable product to take to market. So then really it's like, that's where someone like us comes in, and there's a handful of other good ones that are around that fill that gap and be like, this is what you learned. Yep. And the way we used to pose it to our guys is like, from a tradie, I hope I get this right, because there's not a tradie bone in my body. Is like, your PT cert is your white card to get on the job site, but assume you know nothing. Yep. And then you do all your learning once you actually start. So that's like, oh, how do I make a phone call? How do I do a consult? How do I write the program for Susie and then write it for Ben? Like, how do I balance all of those things? So coming in with that awareness is really important. I think the only thing that the course should be held a little bit more responsible for is they don't explain the self-employed model enough. Yes, I agree. Like, you don't have to teach, you don't have to turn it into a business course, because it's going to cost more money and all that kind of stuff. But don't set people up to think like, you can just go make $150 an hour. Like, I can charge, that's my first week on the job in a gym, I can charge $75 for a halfer. And I've got no context of what to do with that money, what that means, where to put it, how I get people to fill that session, how I get people in to fill the spot if that person doesn't fill that session. But you can go make $150 an hour and you can work 40 hours a week. You're going to make fucking 6 figures in no time. How? Tell me how I go from where I just started to that. In what, again, it's like you said, a very similar trading premise.
You don't get an apprenticeship and go, I'm going to make 7 figures in 2 years.
Yeah.
But we get this idea that like with no extra education or no, it can be held accountable to a sense of entitlement that, oh, I've done a 2-week NPT course. I should be now qualified to go make 6 figures.
Yeah.
Where else in economics does that work?
And the scary thing is you fucking can, because I did. I
Yes,
was off the gym floor in 9 weeks with 40 clients because I was good at sales.
Yeah.
So I was the opposite to you. So I did membership sales for a year before I crossed over into personal training.
Yeah.
So Jace was my PT at the time, and we were sort of polar opposites. So I've told this story a few times. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry, but it's worth a laugh anyway. When I look back, the most like horrendous moment of actually training people is I wrote this program. I don't know if I saw it on the internet or something, but I had people like in a prone position, and I would roll a medicine ball, and they had to like up and sprint and get to the ball before it gets to the wall. And now I look back and I'm like, I played fetch with my clients. It's fucking terrifying. But I had a full book and people were enjoying it. And I had like, I tracked metrics and had like a 95% success rate in terms of like weight loss on a monthly basis or fat loss on a monthly basis. So again, it's like having the communication and buy-in skills from sales meant that they did the thing. If you do anything, you're probably going to get some kind of results.
Yeah.
And then Jace was on the other end of the spectrum, exercise science degree, similar to you. Everyone had a program. Everything was good. Everything was well thought out, but fucking had no idea how to actually kind of sell and stuff. Just relied on his skill set, which will only get you so far, unfortunately.
Yeah, that it's an interesting one when you look at like what we're capable of doing, where you can kind of go with it, but then also you can have nothing and still get a result. I guess that's what makes it so appealing to a degree. You can come in with no fucking idea, but you can think you have an idea. You can be confident as fuck you got an idea. And as long as, and we know in the research and literature and the science, as long as you're doing something and progressively doing some metric to go forward, like step more than you did yesterday, drink a bit more water, eat some more vegetables, consume a higher amount of protein, do those few things, and you're already changing your life and changing your body. It doesn't require great coaching to get that, but provided that your client buys into that and just does the actual program or rocks up once, twice a week to the actual gym, they will fucking change in a matter of months. But it's like, then you get like a Jace or a me where you're like, okay, these numbers look sick. This maps out well. This periodization works. This flows properly. And you're like, yeah, but that demographic doesn't suit this whatsoever. So you're trying to sell a Ferrari to people who can afford a Mazda. And you're like, oh, it must be the clients are shit. No one wants fucking Ferraris. Like, no, you're in a place where socioeconomically they don't suit fucking Ferraris. Inversely, like you put that into a gym context, you're in a gym where 90% of your population aren't elite athletes that want to be pro bodybuilders, pro powerlifters, strongmen, sprinters, swimmers. Like you might get 1 in 100. And here I am writing programs for all of my clients thinking that they're going to be that way. Like, don't get me wrong. I think now with Matter and the premise we've set and that preempt context, I guess, of what you're coming into, we hold every client to the degree of an athlete in what they want. So I will hold you accountable to the standards you set for me that you want, and then not let you push back on that. So if you tell me, like, I want to just change my life, have a better relationship with food, and I've got, given my background, my degrees, my certification stuff, like I have that capability. But provided you say to me, like, look, I want to change my relationship, be able to enjoy alcohol, go out without stuff in my face, come back not feeling regretful in the morning, eat a shit ton of Maccas and lose some weight, great. I will hold you to the standard of my bodybuilder who's about to get on stage, but the metrics are different. It's still a level of accountability and ownership on you, and we will go through why you made the choices, how we can modify them, how can we improve them. But I think the issue I had when I first started, you'll probably you'll agree with this or understand it, is that I assumed every athlete wanted to be an athlete and every person wanted to be an elite athlete, and therefore the program should resonate with an elite athlete, or like a high thought out program of periodization and making sure I'm covering 6 body parts and 5 push-pull splits, and it never actually eventuated and worked out.
I think the wild thing too is like so many athletes. I have so many quote unquote Gen Pop clients who weekly non-negotiables behavior is more in line with their goals than my athletes.
Yeah.
Like, get a genetically gifted athlete who's already strong and just shows up and has always just shown up and done well. Yeah. And then like, no, I need you to make sure that you hit exactly these macros, and I need you to do X, Y, Z recovery or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but I don't need to do that to get the result. And then you have like the office worker that just like wants a bigger ass and a smaller waist. And it's like macros are hit to the point, waters hit to the point, sleeps hit to the point. You're like, it's such a good reminder for this whole context that you've got to meet the person where they are. And one thing that we get heaps is like, oh, I need better clients. Like, yeah, maybe you just need to be a better coach. Because like, I get it, and I understand, like, you don't want a full book of people who aren't actually invested in getting an outcome. You don't want a book of people who are paying just to outsource the responsibility. But if you set your business up in a way that weeds those people out, and that they probably won't last inside the model, you can take, so I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent and use personal experience. So my first 5 years in the gym were physique based. So I was like 21, 58 kilos, visible ribs when I stepped foot in the gym. When I eventually transitioned to strength training, I was about 75 kilos. So it was fucking massive, obviously.
Gaunch.
Yeah. But I transitioned into strength training, and then as you do, what your training model looks like influences how you train your clients. And I was at this gym that had like probably the average age, I reckon, was like 40. And my client base was probably like 35 to 45-year-olds. I would have been like mid 20s.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I had these middle-aged women hitting triples with body weight. And everyone in the gym was just like, what the fuck? How did this happen? And it's just like, well, you meet them where they are. You say, hey, do you want to try this? And like, yeah, that sounds kind of fun. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got one young person who wanted to get in shape who was pretty strong. Then I had two. Then I started showing them on Instagram. Then I moved gyms to a more, I guess, conducive environment to that outcome. Fast forward another 12 months, I had people traveling. I think half my client base traveled more than 10 kilometers to see me for their PT sessions and paid casual to get in.
Yeah. Wow.
And they were all the same demographic. They were all 22 to 30-year-old females who wanted to look better naked and be strong as fuck. They all did photo shoots. They all did lift offs. And people will come to me and be like, oh, I want to train that person. It's like to get results like that.
Yep.
With the people you have now, meet them where they are and get those kind of outcomes and show that you can. Before you, because again, the ones that I've taken clients to international level, like strength levels at meets, at national medals, those kind of things. From an adherence standpoint, they're all worse than the Gen Pop clients most trainers complain about, because they're just fucking awesome. Yeah. So you have to learn to deal with that, even if you want to train that like higher echelon, higher priority kind of.
There's about 41 points just in that spiel. So let's try and unravel this for about all of the listeners who will benefit. So one of the key points there in terms of just getting started and getting results, right? Like we have this notion that you've got to niche down straight away and find this niche immediately, or like you come in with the idea of what your niche is going to look like. Like I want to have, let's say they are physique-based clients, but what if your skill set or your articulation, your language and your competency really resonates with fucking swimmers or boxers or fucking track and field, or just the mums who want to be like bitch and moan about their husband for an hour, smash some weights, have a boxercise session, and then go home and feel good about themselves. You've got to be open to the idea that, I don't know, let's say that the gym you chose, because the likelihood that you're going to start at a tier 1 gym when you first open up, probably not very high. They don't know who you are. You don't bring any value to them yet. So you start at a lower tier gym that just needs PTs. So, you might, I'd say lower tier is an insult, but like lower tier in population and diversity. You might be more of like a fit stop. You might be more of a anytime, a snap, a jets, like something smaller in that regard. Be willing to diversify. So as you guys talk about in your course, we want horizontal before we go vertical. Let's see that horizontal layout. Who are you working with across the plane? Who are they? And where do you start to niche down? Where do you start to find the best results? You might say, oh, I hate working with these clients, but next minute you're getting 20 of them that are killing it. And you're like, oh, I fucking hate these clients. There's your bank. And you're saying you hate that client? Like instead of worrying about, I want to work with the 1 in 20% of bodybuilders that actually want to train like a bodybuilder, you could look at this and go, okay, let's go left of the horizontal line, look at this population of your sample and go, okay, there's 20 of them and they're killing it. They're all getting results. They're stronger, bigger. It's just that they started a lower baseline because I was only looking for the bodybuilders and I got the Karens and Gregs that were just having fun and we made it funner. And now all of a sudden they're up here anyway. Well, if they're already up, if that's the progress they've made, fucking hone in on that. Get them the next 20%. Exactly. Like that is where you niche now and go vertical from there and go, well, how the fuck do I specialize right there? And if that's the case, because then all of a sudden face-to-face isn't boring. You're having fun with everyone rocking up, being excited and pumped, and you're catching up on Saturdays for a coffee. And then you come back next week for a power meet or a fucking lift off or a row comp or a met con, make it exciting, make it interesting, throw a $10 pool in there, whatever you want to do. But you've gone from that arrogance of, I'm entitled to every bodybuilder in the gym. They should want to work with me. Why? Firstly, it's a very unique sport that not everyone gives a fuck about, versus now you've got a population of people that actually like you and do what you do or like get results with what you do. It's a strange concept to me where, and I've been guilty of it, we look for that demographic that isn't in the demographic we want. Oh, sorry, we don't look in the pool, if you will, for who suits us because we want something else. Reality is right there. We just have to nurture it and grow it. And then there is, the money you're complaining about or the client that you're complaining about. That 6-figure income is in that niche, not this one.
Yeah. I think, like we sort of talked about our intro phase. So the way we pose it to our guys, like we actually build our course in 3 stages. And like the first stage is like, just doing this will make you 100 grand in any health club. And that's make a phone call, ask the people how they're going, get them in, do a consult, sell personal training. At that point, your niche is the gym.
Yep.
And then, well, what does the gym need? Well, people in the gym, they probably want to look better naked. They probably want to be a little bit stronger. They probably want to feel better on the weekends. And they probably want to feel healthier overall and have better mental health. It's like, cool. Now you've got your niche. That's the person. And then you can start to build your own personality and stuff in that. Like you said, once you've got that, now you've got the freedom that you don't have the rent over your head. The average lifespan of a personal trainer is like 6 months. And that's only because it's a 3-month initial commitment and you got to give 3-month notice. So it's like the average is failure. Basically. So if you can get yourself on your feet straight away and just focus on that clientele. And then, like you said, you start to find, I'm almost playing now that like niche is less about outcomes and more about personality. If you want to like who you train, there's obviously a skill set demand, and I'm grateful that I'm in a position where I spent 5 years training for physique myself and obviously work with Jace and then have contacts like yourself everywhere that information is easy to access for me. Powerlift competed for 6 years myself, worked with Gen Pop the entire time, and I've worked with athletes. So it's like when someone comes to me, there's very few goals aside from stepping on stage and maybe doing like ultra endurance stuff that I'm like, not sure. Do you have training in your top 3 to 5 priorities in your life? Do you abide by a growth mindset? Do you abide by an ownership mindset? Are you willing and able to do all the things that are in front of you? Are you self-motivated with your training? Are you going to need a cuddle every week? Because that's not me. Like, and then I can go, cool, well, this is the person I want to work with. And I'll get whatever outcome that's important to them. So I've got a client who just lost, I think she's up to 30 kilos in 12 months.
Awesome.
And I've got competitive powerlifters. It's like that people would look at me and be like, oh, Ben's the powerlifting coach. It's like, no, I'm the people who like training coach who also get along with my personality for whatever reason.
Having a like this is why this chat is it could go for fucking 4 hours, is there's so many ways to dive into this. When we start looking at us as a coach, we have to have a personality and we have to understand how we come across to our people, to our clients, to our community, because that's going to impact whether they stay. That's going to impact whether they resonate with us. It's going to impact whether they get a result. Because if you don't have a personality that your client can resonate with, it's going to create friction between them doing the thing and them saying the thing. You saying the thing and them doing it, or suggesting it and doing it. If you come across as a dictator, if you come across in dictatorial fashion, in very demanding language, and you have someone who's a mum of 3 kids, or a fucking, a very stressful relationship because they haven't seen each other, had a fucking 2 years, and the last time they got together and managed to get a birthday BJ was 5 years ago, like that level of relationship, and you're like, hey, Susan, I told you that you had to do fucking 5 sessions and 3 sessions of sprint work. She's going to say, suck a left one. I'm probably not going to do that right now because I'm on the edge of hating my husband because we haven't had a root in forever. We've got 3 kids and 2 jobs. The likelihood of that being the case, pretty low. So you got to have a personality in the way that we convey ourselves, communicate, talk, chat, and actually connect with our client so that they actually want to listen and take it on board. It's a duality of conversation and teamwork and interaction. It's not just, hey, I said this, now fucking do it. It's, where are you? How do we meet in the middle? Like, what can we start with? I want 5 sessions out of you because I know your volume needs to go higher, but you're at 2 and we're struggling there. How do I get you to, and this is where having that extra coaching benefit and skills that we start to learn, like, myself, you, Scaff, Jace, we see those metrics and go, okay, so I know your sleep is shit, but I know your sleep hygiene is terrible, and you're drinking coffee like it's gone out of fashion 2 hours before bed. How can we optimize your sleep to get more efficiency so you wake up on time so we can train? So rather than just being like, hey, you're a piece of shit of a client or a shit client because you didn't wake up on time, well, how do we optimize the rest of the stuff going on so that we can get that extra session, because we can free up 2 hours? And I think that's such an important personality trait for us to have. So the client looks at us and says, that's the coach I want. As you said, you're the coach that people want to work with, that like to work with, that gets results, but also you do some powerlifting. As a coach, it becomes important for us to have that personality that the client wants, because we're not just selling the client, we're not just converting the client, right? They're choosing if they want to work with us. And that's become such an important factor. I think a lot of coaches forget. They think they're entitled to the client. They think they're entitled to someone's service. As we've talked about before, and I sort of said on your podcast, we sell to every client twice. The first time that we sell them, and every single week they pay us and keep paying our bills, we sell them again. So if you don't have that personality, fucking good luck. But at the same time, inversely, having that ability to identify and why working amongst populations is so important, you can start to see the avatar that you actually want. Because then we can niche in and get into how are you talking to them on your socials? What results are you putting out? What are the results you're getting? Does that suit who you think you want to work with? Is the language you're using and communicating actually coming across to who that person is? Having someone like, one of my young guys, he was at your workshop, he's face-to-face in the gym, and sort of like what he's put out on socials, I was like, you've got to look at, if someone in your gym is like, you're not selling large amounts of online clients, you're selling in the gym. So your Instagram needs to be a landing page for a website you don't have yet. Hit that with the 3 to 5 tips for protein, the 3 to 5 tips for hydration, the 3 to 5 tips for better carb sources, the way to get 2 hours extra sleep, that sort of shit, where a Greg, a Karen, a Susan, a Phil can land on that and go, oh, I want to see this guy in my gym because he knows what he's doing. He's got that conveyed knowledge, but also understanding of me. And now all of a sudden, because you know who you're talking to, you have that marketability to your client. So now not only are you selling them, they're selling you, and you're like, yep, that's who I want, and I'm who they want.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. And then to compound on top, I think there's actually like, you could almost term that as like coaching ability, emotional intelligence, being able to work with the person that you're working with. And emotional intelligence is part of your personality, 100%. The next layer to that is one of the biggest mistakes most personal trainers make is they're trying to be, for lack of a better term, professional. But they're misinterpreting what professional actually means. So when I get up and present, the first thing I say is like, I'm going to swear, if you're offended, you can leave. Because I don't know how to talk without it. And usually it gets a good laugh and kind of brings the walls down. Whereas if I get up and say like, now today, guys, we're going to talk about client acquisition. Everyone in the room is just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Fucking vagina's drier than a nun.
Exactly. And that's where the personal trainers think they have to be this like 80s polished version of what professionalism is. Professionalism is being really
rocking up in a suit and tie to a PT session.
Personality is actually being able to execute. Professionalism is being able to execute on the goal that you're setting and doing the things that you say you're doing, providing high quality service, blah, 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 blah. The personality side is, if yesterday I posted all of your heroes pray, journal, or both. Don't let the woo-woos ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a woo-woo, if you're into that stuff, that might have pissed you off.
Yep.
But if that pissed you off, you probably don't want to work with me because that's how I talk and that's who I am. I like practical outcomes. I like things that actually work. I will dip my toe into mindset as much as that's bastardized now inside of our industry, unfortunately. So I will dip my toe into that stuff, but it's like, show me the tangible outcome.
Yeah.
Like, show me what's going on. Like, if you're spending 3 hours on your morning routine, I'm not impressed. You didn't do more work, you did less. So like that seems divisive, but it's on purpose to be like, if you laughed at this, you're my people.
Yeah. Come here. Come on.
And when we've run like big meets and stuff like that, when we had those big teams and all of those kind of things, like by the end of the day, even if none of the clients knew whose clients each client was, who they belonged to,
it's
what
like
trainer,
the subgroups.
They all found each other by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Why? Because they all had the same values. They all had similar personalities. They all overlapped and they were friends. So it's like, if my rule now is like, I won't work with anyone I wouldn't go for coffee with on the weekend.
That's fair.
And I'm in obviously, I don't want to say blessed, but like I'm in a fortunate position where I have the flexibility to do that. When you start out, obviously you don't. You're going to train some people that you look at your watch and go, fuck, got Craig next. It's going to happen. Yeah. But over time, you're actually trying to build that. So it's not just the powerlifters. It's not just the bodybuilders. That's the skill set. That's what you're passionate about. That's great. Layer that emotional intelligence so you're good at it. And then I want to work with the powerlifters who.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking headbutting barbells, sniffing salts, slapping my clients in the face before they deadlift.
Yeah.
If you want that, go somewhere else. That's not. So there's a lot of different types of powerlifters, and that's the person that I attract. I think my probably position in the market is different in that all my powerlifters also want to look good naked.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, we've got a niche in terms of outcome. We've got a niche in terms of personality traits, values, those overlap. All of a sudden, your week is so fucking fulfilling.
Yeah.
No matter if you've got a fat loss client, a powerlifting client, an athlete client, a physique client, whatever it is, every interaction is so much more fun.
Yep. 100% agree. And like, to even add a little bit of, I guess, a difference to if you are in that position where you're currently in that less fulfilling struggle, which, you know what, if you are going to complain about the struggle of growth, fuck you, because the goal, and Hamosi said this a couple of weeks, last week or this week, is we're playing an infinite game, and that is business. So if you don't want the struggle, or you think you just all of a sudden you want the end result, well, you're setting a finite rule to an infinite game, and that is the goal to work forever. Like, I hate this notion, like, oh, so as a coach, like, you'll just hit like 60 and retire, and you'll be like, no, I am going to be Tim Grover in the fuck out of my life, 65, 70 on stages talking about how the best in the world do shit because I've spent my life studying them and trying to figure them out. Or, you know, I'm going to be changing the way we educate and talk about performance and take away the woo-woo because the data is behind these psychological skills and abilities and how you can use it to go from being Greg, the accountant, to Greg who fucks shit up. Like that, to me, I'm hitting 65, 70 doing that. And I'll drop dead on that stage for all I give a fuck. To me, that idea that the business shouldn't be a struggle is borderline insulting, because A, we aren't entitled to success. No matter what you do, you're not entitled to anything. But you put in how to even word it? You insert your token every day. You dip in your dime every single day into the well. You put it into the box, into the meter. You're paying your dues every day to get to that point of success. But none of that struggle isn't a part of it. That with the second you open a business and say, this is what I want to do, that's what you're involved in. That's the process that you get. So to me, that is like the kind of the thing to understand. But we can make that better. Peterson said a really powerful phrase when we were talking about people who hate their life. He's like, well, what if you turn up to that job that you hate, or in our context here, turn up to that session with that client who isn't quite what you want? What if you turn up to that session fucking excited, ready to just raise the roof and raise the bar in that client's life? And you hit that session and you're just like, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, I'm keeping the energy up. and I'm going to fucking talk to them about their passions, not make it about me. I'm not going to bitch about other clients. I'm not going to bitch about the business or the gym. I'm going to talk to them, meet them. If they're into fucking Pokemon, we're talking about Charizard kicking everyone's ass. We're talking about fucking Pikachu fucking shit up. I don't give a shit. If you're into Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're into fucking comics, if you're into whatever, I'm not going to sit there and talk to you about set volume and fucking macros.
Yeah.
I might slip in there. Did you eat some better carbs this week? How do we get some more water in? Or how is your veggie intake? Did you hit the 2 serves a day? Okay, well, how do we do that? The rest of the session, fucking how's the footy on the weekend? Did you go for a fucking ride? Like, I have some clients that I have absolutely no similar interest in, bar the fact they like training, they like nutrition, they like learning in that regard. People talk to me about UFC, and the last time I watched UFC, George St. Pierre was in charge. So, I used to box, and I would do boxing. Dad put us into boxing. I used to love it. The last time that I really sat down and watched fights, none of the guys winning fights right now are in charge. I couldn't tell you the records of Anthony Joshua, but I know it's fucking great. I love watching Tyson Fury just live, but at the same token, if you take that premise, you can still enjoy what you do. And then all of a sudden your session becomes rewarding. And then that person might, this I think is the big mistake that a lot of PTs misunderstand, is you're marketing yourself. And then when we get with a client, right? Like, let's say that client is just taking the free sessions, or they're just taking maybe they did a few weeks with you and like, you know what, it's not for me. You don't get pissed at them for not being up who you want them to be. You treat them as if they're going to treat them as if you're going to change their life, because then they know someone who knows someone who's like, oh, I'm fucking looking for a coach. I had someone, to go on a bit of a tangent, 2 degrees of separation away from myself. They forwarded me a lead, or a client told them to follow me, because though they weren't who I wanted to work with, or sorry, I wasn't who they wanted to work with, they're like, you fucking fit the bill from this person. They describe what they want as a coach. And I wanted you to be the one to take them, because I can see what you put out. I see what you're about, and I see what you do. You fit that person. And I thought, you know what? Send them your way. That person owes me nothing. But we had a consult, we've had a chat. Maybe it didn't go the way we wanted, or he finished up and it was done. But by leaving that good impression, or that good conversation, or just that interest in the fucking person, instead of walking around and be like, oh, I've got fucking Craig again. You're like, Craigie, what's going on? How's the fucking Warriors on the weekend? Did you watch the NBA? Did you watch the NBL? Fucking how was it? He's now, oh, this guy loves training, gets me a result, but also he'll chat to me. Hey, other guy, you suit this guy, go talk to him. Now you've got 10 more leads than you didn't fucking think about, because you left good imprints on each person you hated working with.
Yeah, and to go back to the start of that epic rant, where we went, so your opening line was, if you're not willing to struggle, get the fuck out of business. Now, I got excited when you said that, and I was like, get him, Ben. And then you were like, and JP said this, and I was like, fuck yeah, JP. And that excites me, and that's why we communicate as often as we do, because I like all that shit. Now, there are podcasts, coaches, mentors out there who are softer and will give we need to help you build your confidence, and we need to blah, 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 and come in at a lower level, not a lower level, but maybe it is, at a different angle and communicate in a different way. Some people will have heard what you just said and went, fuck this guy, and turn the podcast off.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Yes.
And that's what personal trainers miss. And I think when we talk about it, personal trainers misconstrue, because I like, maybe not as much as you, but I like putting a little bit of divisiveness in my content on purpose to drive that separation. And that's how I talk. Like, it's not put on. If I sit down with Jace, I'll just say what I'm thinking at the time.
Yep.
And then personal trainers think like, oh, I have to be like James Smith and call people out, or Lane is another good example, who's super aggressive and call out and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you don't, if that's not who you are. And if you're not that person, you'll look stupid trying to do it.
Yes.
So put the message out the way that you would tell your client, or tell your friend, or tell your brother, or tell your whoever, in that manner. And the people that resonate with you will be attracted to it.
Yes.
So you don't have to be Ben Scott or Ben Mayfield Smith or whoever. You can be your own person, communicate your own message in your own tonality and with your own language, through your own, I guess, structures, and attract people who want to work with you.
Yes. Yeah, like, just that is a fucking key piece of advice. Stop looking at your, like, those big platforms and going, I've got to start adding cunt to my language, or I've got to start adding fuck and, put an accent on and talk in this nature. Like, the golden points might be similar, but you don't have to be that way if that's not who you are. because the second it goes to the next level of conversation, or like, let's say if we go a bit towards the Jordan Peterson route and you are a more agreeable person than you are less agreeable, and you're more extroverted, or sorry, less extroverted than you are conscientious, and you're more neurotic, the likelihood that you're going to be able to handle a long-term debate and challenge someone that you've challenged or like you've questioned beyond the superficial level, you're going to get found out very quickly. And most of these people, in all honesty, I would not have a drama in the world challenging them on some of the concepts they talk about, because they step outside their scope very quickly, and they also just hyperpolarize a few keywords and sound really smart to the general person. Great, good on them. That's what they want to do. That's how they want to talk. Fantastic. The other thing is, that person with 300, 500 million followers can't work with a million people. And if they can, I call bullshit, and they're taking your money. Unless it's a very simplified approach in terms of like 12-week programs, but you're not actually like coaching. Fine, that's great. That's a middle funnel versus an end funnel and like a larger close metric, or a larger one-to-one hands-on ratio. That's fine. But you can then put out similar information, but in a way that conveys it from your sense. And now you start to build your community, and you start to build your network and your interactions and your cross-field, cross-correlations. And you start to see, okay, across this realm I connect, across this realm I connect. With these guys I don't. You may not be as confrontational as me, and you may not even have the same approach. I will always look to attack the idea and not the person. That's why I don't even use people's names anymore. I'm not trying to attack you personally. I always, and we said this on our podcast on Bros with Brains, we will assume that you have good intent. So it's just when that good intent starts to be misconstrued or taken advantage of or manipulated or lied, or bad results start to happen, we will attack the idea, because that's how debate and society works and conversation works and agreeableness versus disagreeableness works. You don't just get the right to be wrong without me challenging you. So inversely, come back at me, give me fucking something sweet. Most of the time I'm putting up to get engagement from people because I'm like, hey, I want to see what people's thoughts are on this. Do it. Let's do it. But you don't have to be me. You can go, you know what? I'm going to talk to the Karens and the Phils who just want to know what some extra proteins are, or how do I get an extra liter of water in my day, or how do I take my piss color from fucking brown yellow to clearer? Like, all of a sudden you start to see, who am I talking to? How's it resonating? Am I being authentic? Because I find in business, just even like latch off or bounce a bit further off what you said there, if you are not authentically who you are, you will get found out very fucking quickly. Which is why this language of mine, this tone, this conveying excitement and passion hasn't changed in 3 years. And then before that, when I was even in the nutrition game, when I was in coaching beforehand, it's been pretty consistent. I've just become more confident in doing it, because I realized trying to talk to the Susans and Gregs in a way that wasn't me didn't work. I do recognize that I have a different ability to differentiate my client and talk accordingly. If they prefer a softer approach, I can adjust, but I'm not holding them any less accountable or more direct, any less direct.
Yeah, it doesn't change your messaging though. Like, how you interact with the client on an individual level is different probably to how you communicate online. Particularly, like, sometimes people need a cuddle, sometimes they need a kick in the ass, but it's like you have a general tonality of the way you communicate. So there's a few things that came to mind while you were talking about that. The confrontation element of it. I did a workshop down here while Mike was here with the strength culture guys. And we did content creation. And I was like, okay, so who thinks Angus Bradley puts up highly engaging content that obviously gets a lot of buy-in, and who would like to have the engagement that he gets? Everyone in the room, like fucking oath, like particularly his connection with strength culture, the strength culture audience. And then I was like, who could handle 100 negative comments on one of their posts tomorrow? And everyone's hand was just whoop, like, oh, fuck that. No way. It's like, okay, so don't do that. Don't set yourself up to attract that attention if you can't handle it the way Angus does, because he can. And he's actually doing it on purpose and he enjoys it. So don't allow yourself to fall into that trap. And then in terms of like the industry people, like obviously you were alluding to like the James Smiths, the Lane Nortons, or whatever, and like, oh, I need to talk the way that they talk. Personally, and this is something that I always find really strange, like PTs never want to, well, they're not never, but a lot of them don't want to tag their coach or say that they've got a coach or whatever, because it's like, oh, you're a PT, you should. Or they're scared that if I hired them, that means they're smarter than me, therefore all my clients will go to them. So I worked with Will Crozier for 4 years, I think. Did 3-4 comps with him. Was a novice powerlifter, my first meet, and novice powerlifting coach as well. The guy's arguably the best, at least top 3 best powerlifters in Australia in the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, easy, yeah.
And arguably top, personally, I put him top 2. We'll be fair and say top 5 elite powerlifting coaches in Australia.
Yep.
There's like Zero has more clients than Will at Pro Raw, and then there's everyone else.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so I'm going to start tagging Will every time I post. All my clients are obviously just going to go to Will because he's more experienced. He's maybe a few of them are scared of his abnormally large neck and they run away.
Yeah.
But they're all going to go to him,
putting...
right? Yeah, but it's like, no, because I communicate differently to Will. Even like we used to do our Zoom calls and we'd pretty much collab on programs because we thought the same way about programming.
Yeah.
Like what came out on the piece of paper is like, I probably would have wrote the same. I would have done something really similar.
Yeah.
Which always works when you're a coach and you don't want it too far away from what you kind of, your normal methods. So yeah, like we were actually super similar of our execution and what we did, but the people we attracted were really different. And then I look at like even Jason and I, we literally write our systems together. This is how we write a hypertrophy program. This is how we write a strength program. This is our nutrition strategies. This is this is this. But we attract totally different people. Because the way we communicate is totally different based on the personality. So copying somebody else isn't it. You can learn from others. And the only caveat I'll put in there, and I'll give it a little jab at you, but not too bad. So in every health club, there's a trainer that every quote unquote good trainer, so highly technically skilled trainer, will look at and go, they're fucking shit. I don't know how they have so much business. Rah, rah, rah. Look at that client's form. Rah, rah, rah. It's like, them motherfuckers got a full book and you don't.
Yeah, 100%.
So instead of sitting in the PT room and going, they're shit, I'm going to flip and say like, James Smith is the butt of that on an online level. It's like, he's this, he's that, he's this. It's like, be smart enough to acknowledge, technically he's probably not what you aspire to be. But fuck, what's he getting right?
100%.
What's that trainer on the gym floor getting right? What's like Angus getting right? Even if you don't want to be divisive, what's he doing that's working? What's James Smith doing? What's Lane doing? What's Ben doing? How do I learn from it, but do it my own way?
And you'll notice too, and this I think is an important part, and I take full accountability of this and full ownership of this, is the way in which I even speak about these guys has changed because I recognize those things. Again, it went from being the fuck the Jameses, fuck that Brendan Carpenters. It stopped being that because I was like, you know what? If the people they're working for are getting a result, fantastic. If they've got 250,000 people that are willing to spend $10 a month for them, fantastic. That's fucking awesome. That's a model I'd like to have, provided I put out better info. So I want to take that model or that framework and like, I'd love to have a sort of an Australian version of Physique Collective, have amongst it a network of coaches that are fucking extraordinary, but also diverse in education interests, something like that. I'd like to have those things, but I know that what I'm going to put into that fucking trumps whatever they did, but I know that they've done that. So instead of being like the fuck them, change that, more so I was like, okay, but let's attack that idea. Was that idea correct? Was the way they did that correct? Was that execution correct in what they gave their client versus they're fucking shit coaches? And
how do I present my idea as effectively as they presented theirs?
Exactly right. I don't need the F and C with every word or phrase, provided I say it in my way. And my thing has always been, and this is why I live for the negative engagements, because I will write my content in a way that it is so right the first time that there is no challenge, but I want you to think. So it's not written for you to come back with me and present a counter argument. I know your counter argument is going to be wrong. I'm open to it, but I know it's going to be wrong, but I want to see how you've worded it or what you've taken from my point. Because again, I started realizing he's talking about, I'd see him ramble a little bit about insulin, or he started talking about testosterone. He was wrong, but it created thought. Well, my thought was, what if I'm right and create thought? So that ownership on me, like we said, have an ownership mindset, have a growth mindset. that to me was where I sort of took on that stab and was like, you know what, you're right. I was sort of like attacking the idiots of the industry or being like, well, this is fucking dumb. If they can do it, why can't I? But I haven't done it. So I can sit here and I can sit on the bleachers and bitch and moan. But me as an individual, as a business, got far more successful when I was like, well, what did they get right? And it took my own philosophy of saying, you know what, I want to look at the elite successful and see how I can implement it to raise my own standard. It's just that my ego got in the way of, sort of admitting who those elite were. And then being like, well, in the game, before I can get to the point of talking to millions of people, I've got to have hundreds of clients. Okay, so these guys have thousands of clients. I can hate the way they delivered it, but they still got thousands of clients. How did that work? How'd that happen?
And I've done in a very, very expensive way. So STC Fit moved from just me doing PT into started growing a team and all that kind of stuff. Because we spent about 50K 8 years ago on a website that I was like, this is going to be better than Michelle Bridges, and we're going to bury her because fuck her. Fuck her and her 1,200 calorie diets and her 1,000 calorie Saturdays and her cheat meals and all this bullshit. And we were like, that's it. We're taking her down. This is going to be the best thing fucking ever. It fucking tanked. Literally, I reckon we got 3 online clients.
Nice.
50G in the hole for 3 clients.
Nice.
We ended up making a really effective, useful strategy. It made the base of our mentorship because it was a really good client management system. But it really hurt. And that was just off the back of like looking at the wrong thing. It's like, okay, so, but why, what is she doing in her communication that are making thousands and thousands of mums in Australia buy her stuff?
Yep.
And how do then I get them to buy my stuff instead because it is better. But and obviously at the time was not good enough to attract the same level or the same amount of people as she was.
Yeah, it's a humbling almost comprehension, like to really comprehend the fact that, we've maybe looked at this the wrong way, but that's what comes with emotional intelligence and maturity. Taking that accountability and that ownership and going, okay, I've looked at this wrong. I've looked at business wrong, or I've looked at my business in the wrong light, or I've looked at these people in the wrong light. How can I improve that? And this is where having ego as a coach, as a business operator, a business owner needs to fucking go. I don't mind ego. I don't mind like confidence. I don't mind cockiness, provided you back it up. But at the same time, if it's preventing you from back it up, then you got to fuck it off. And being able to really sit there and assess, well, and even to kind of expand on that, the pie is so fucking big that, and we can see this in game theory, in basic economics, we don't want to have no competitors. I want there to be bad competitors because it drives up the value of what I provide so much further. I don't even want them to be bad competitors. I want them to succeed, or at least to a degree where they're doing well enough that I can then say, hey, look, you can get a result with this bad method or with this style or this approach. You're not going to sustain it, or you're not going to get much more of it. You'll be back in 12 months' time to do another 12-week phase. But with us, this is what the system is and how we do it. So it's in my interest to look at them and sort of like allow them to be. Don't look at attacking them or break it. Oh, I want them to fail. That'd be like McDonald's wanting Hungry Jacks to fail. It's the biggest competitor in Australia. It drives equal market share, but the market goes up. So there is more than enough. If we remove that ego hat, remove that arrogance of like, I'm going to destroy this cunt. Let them be. Fucking learn from them. See what they've got to offer. Take from them what you can, and then go about your thing, go your way, and see what you do. Because eventually you'll find you start to get your 250,000 fucking community engagement, and you start to nurture your field, and you start to nurture your team. And then all of a sudden you've got a full week and you've got online clients and you've got resources, and you're like, well, you know what? Who gives a fuck what they're doing? I'm going to do my way. There's more than enough specialties, fields, fucking niches in this game. You could not fill every void if you tried.
Yeah, and I think bringing it back to, you mentioned Ewan earlier, like bring it back to someone who's in that kind of situation, like first 6 months in the gym, face-to-face PT. This is all sort of like high level theoretical stuff that we're talking about in terms of like building a brand and a business at a large scale. And maybe you're looking at it and you're like, I've got 10 clients. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're going to have this on a smaller level within your gym. And the best way to go about it is, how do I best execute with the people that are in front of me? So it comes back to that, like the niches, the gym that you work in, the emotional intelligence of the communication, the being yourself and not like steering away from pretending to be someone else or pretending to be some polished, like well-learned English graduate when you've just got a Cert 3 and a Cert 4 in fitness. Like, just talk the way you talk. People want to hang out with you for 2 hours a week. Like, be yourself. And then what will happen is, as you raise that bar, the bar around you will raise as well. So we had a gym where no one followed a program. People did fetch with their clients. And then we started to make shit better. And all of a sudden, it's like all of our clients were walking around with programs. Within 6 months, every trainer in the gym had to have a program, because if you didn't, you're going to go work with Ben and Jace. And then we started introducing like nutrition strategies. Now we started doing everyone's nutrition for their clients. And it was like, okay, this needs to improve. Then we had resources, then we had blogs, then we had social media, then we had all of these things layered and layered and layered, and it funneled through the gym. And that gym was like one of the most successful PT cultures for inside the Good Life chain for like 10 years, just off the back of the standard that was set. And then you go to other clubs and be like, why is this like this? It's like, because there wasn't 3, 4, 5 people at the top driving the standard, which meant that everyone else had to get better. So if you just put your head down and focus on what's the best way to communicate with the person in front of me, what's the best way to get them a result, not me an outcome, and continue to do that, you'll raise the standard around you anyway.
And I think if you, like, even to compound on that, expand the time horizon by what you think to expect in terms of, I want to have that impact in 6 months. I just want you to get going in 6 months. Like, I just want you to
pay
your bills in 6 months. Like, you're coming to me for coaching. I want to help you succeed in your business, because I don't want you to stress about having to pay me for coaching. I want you to get a result in your own life, but also in your own business. So looking at that, that time horizon of like, 12 months, I want to be doing this. Nah, bro, if you expand that out and look over 5 years, 10 years, you're going to do this for a long time. You look over what can be achieved in 5 or 10 years and focus on that. And then each day show up, you'll start to see the impact you can have and the results you can make. And all of a sudden, then things get a bit smaller. Like, I was focused on having 50 clients in the first 6 months. I only got 10. Like, just get good at working with that 10. Get a result of that 10. Then we look at how do you market it? How do you talk about those people? All that sort of shit. And then, like, going back even into the general gym sense, into the club or the fitness health club sort of scene. If you're in a place like an Anytime, you can expect maybe 1,000 members. Probably is like a pretty good number for most Anytimes. That's their sort of ratio they look for. Depending on the demographic where it is, you might get 2 or 3 coaches. In every Anytime I've been to, there's maybe 3 coaches tops consistently on the gym floor. If you just compress everything we've said, as you just sort of explained there, and focus on your population, which is that gym, it's a subgroup of like just gyms in general, and you show up every fucking day for 2 years, 5 years, as the guy to see that you're there on the gym floor at 5 a.m. You got clients, and if they're not there, you're fucking working, studying, writing content, putting some free QR codes out on shit, like putting out some free fucking info pieces, whatever. Leave a link to your website at the front door, whatever you got, your fucking Instagram, whatever. You show up as that guy in your gym. The average cold calling sales rate is 3% for every 100. So 3 in every 100 sales is yours. You have a 1,000-person gym, you make 3%, that's 30 clients. That's if they're cold. Now imagine if you warm them up. A warm lead converts at a far higher ratio in your funnel than a 3%. You don't need fancy gadgets and shit to make that happen. Just be that cunt that shows up, right? And like, I guess we've kind of both been there and been that person who's made the first mistake, and then business succeeded far more when we were the second guy making that.
Yeah, 100%. And then even as like a sustainability standpoint as well, like you will enjoy what you're doing so much more if you let go of what you think you should be doing. And able just to shrink that down and be like, I'm just going to be the best trainer for the people in front of me. And if I continue to put those reps in, then I will be the best trainer. It's funny. I read, and I know I actually did maybe it was a live or a podcast or something with Dalton. And he was like, the 10,000 hour rule is actually bullshit. And I was like, fuck, it changed my life. Just from a psychological standpoint to go, I've got 4 years of this full time before I have to be good. And if I get up and I watch someone smart talk about something on YouTube or read a book or
Mm-hmm.
apply my trade in the gym, all of that's contributing to me getting better. And I don't have to be good for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And that was just like, oh, I'm in a learning phase now for 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you can have that mentality, every fuck up hurts less. Every milestone that you don't hit in time hurts less, and it allows you just to be like, no, I'm learning. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be here. It's supposed to be here. And then 5 years in, we started training other trainers. It's like, this is a new thing. It's going to take 5 years. And lo and behold, 5 years as a trainer, like I was like fucking booked out, couldn't take any more clients. 5 years online, booked out, couldn't take any more clients. 5 years coaching people, started to make real money. So it's like, I just see this pattern repeat. And I think if you give yourself that window, whether the theory is scientifically valid or been disproven or what, it fucking, from a mentality standpoint, works really, really well.
I think like even like to kind of knuckle on that, if we're looking at the sort of like time frame to perfection kind of sense, is the 10,000 hours of mastery is kind of asserted around this point that if you repeat the same action long enough, you'll eventually get good at it. It's the law of accommodation, the skill of acquisition. It's basically just that you will eventually get good at something. But the issue is you can practice the same thing 10,000 hours long and get it wrong. So you can practice the wrong thing in 10,000 hours time. So you've just learned to fuck up for 10,000 hours. Yeah. If you're in the trenches and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to dedicate X time and passionately love what I do, your ability to accumulate knowledge and retain information and excitement exacerbates the duration required. Sorry, it shortens the duration required because you're so excited you're there. I sort of map out this equation for people. I'm like, if you work 42 hours a week or you work 40 hours a week or 36 in your full-time job and you fucking hate that 36, you're less productive, you're less efficient, so you're less noticed, you're not doing results or getting work. You then map that out, you take your 4 weeks holiday over a year, plus your sick leave, plus your annual leave, all that sort of shit. Realistically, you might be working 45 weeks a year. If I'm passionately loving 70 hours of my job, not only do I exponentially or at least double your work rate, the rate of success and results and enjoying failing, enjoying losing, I'm exponentially expanding my experiences and my knowledge before you are, because we're not doing the same thing. We're not running the same race. So if we look at like time as years, it might not even take you 5 years, provided you're willing to learn and love the process. Enjoy the fuck ups, enjoy the mistakes, enjoy the updates, the upgrades, the reflections, the ownership. Just in the gym, just in the fucking being a face-to-face PT. Look at how you programmed 6 months ago. Look at the results they got. Look at the clients you have and are they happy? Do you even have a community of people to talk to each other? Like, what are they all saying? Are they fucking loving being amongst a team? Like, how do you create that team environment? Team bonding is one of the single greatest predictors of success for people to achieve an outcome. It's relatedness, which is one of the key theories of self-determination. You want them to be motivated, make them feel connected. And that, like, you get that and you're like, well, I thought this was going to take 5-10 years. I've done it in fucking 2. What's the next goal? Like that whole thing then just compounds and you're like, fuck, what I thought was going to take 10 years. Well, now I can add more to that 10 years because I just did it in 2. Well, now I can do that. What do I do in 3? What do I do in 5? Like,
and the crazy thing is the compounding interest with that. Cause I took the same mindset. I was like, well, if 10,000 hours is 4 to 5 years, and that's based on 8 hours a day, like an apprenticeship, 10,000 hours. So it's 4 years full time. And I was like, well, if I work 10 to 12 per day and do 60 hours a week, then I can do that in 3. And that was like, cool, let's go. So that's how I behaved at the time. What's interesting and what I'm learning in the last couple of years, you just shit at doing stuff when you start.
Yes.
I know that's very scientific terminology, but you just shit at it. Like an hour that I spent then, my 12-hour day back then, I could do in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So now I'm at a point where it's like, I actually start to, and I think people start doing this too early. Now I'm at a point where it's like, actually, if I take an hour off right now, the 2 hours after that will be hyper productive. And I can do a day's worth of work in 2 hours if I'm in flow state, ready to fucking go. And I've learned that over time, but I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have the knowledge. There was just like throw everything at the fucking wall and see what sticks. The wall being my brain and mud being information. So it's just hyper exposure to then eventually be able to put stuff into a systemized enough approach so that I could be like, you know what? Because nowadays, honestly, in terms of like highly driven, productive work, I'm closer to 6 hours a day. But if I get an hour and a half, 2 hours, I've recently started actually getting up early and doing like a block of work in the morning. I did 3 hours of work in 45 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
That in the afternoon with distractions and bullshit would have been able to say, yeah, I did 3 hours of work. It's like, nah, you were just at your computer for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I think that is in and of itself a skill set, is learning. You've got to do those big hours early on, but the intent is to learn to be better at it and more efficient at it over time.
Yes.
And to learn how to actually execute things. We were also talking on the podcast yesterday that I heard on another podcast, and a guy was like, fuck, 33. And I'm starting to think, remember when I used to have all this energy? And it's like, when I was 23, man, it's like, fuck, I don't care. Work 80 hours a week. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different. It needs to be a little bit more deliberate. Responsibility is a little bit different. And then we're talking too, obviously, like for most people, moving down the track, it's like family, relationships, like all that kind of shit's going to start to come in as well. So you need to be more efficient at what you're doing. So those early 3 to 5 years where you are just like pedal mashed as much as you can take, go for it. I think just because we both love him, JP's got one of those, like, your 20s should be learning about what your capacity is.
Yes.
Can you work 12 hours a day? Can you work 8 hours a day? Where's the sweet spot in terms of what actually comes out of that productivity? I think it's a really, really valuable thing to take on board.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the biggest takeaway from this, and I think if anyone were to really listen in, is like the fancy stuff gets great. You come to us once it's like time for that fancy shit, and the fancy shit just being like that vertical pole niching, that getting into marketing, look at how to expose your brand more. You want to move out of just a face-to-face model and go hybrid. You start finding people above you. You find mentors. You find people that can help you escalate and scale. But the initial premise that I think a lot of people are scared of is just get into the fucking trench. Work hard and work fast. Fail fast, fuck up fast, figure it out, get a result, figure it out, don't get a result, figure it out, move on. Because the faster you learn what went wrong, the faster you can learn how to get it right. And the faster you get results, the faster you get people that want to come back. Or they have friends to tell family. You don't need a high-tier marketing funnel system if you just have people telling people how good you are. Like a lead that come through, they've got a consult on fucking Monday that came out of nowhere purely because I thought, he said, I'm a friend of, I follow one of my friends is coached by you and I follow her. I follow your stuff as well. And I'm sick of coaching myself. I'm struggling to find a good coach, but I've been seeing the results, I've been getting, following your stuff. I want to consult. I'm ready to go. Here's my kind of like what I look for in a coach or how I like to train. Can you include that? And I was like, fuck, I can include that. I like to do this, but also account for you guys. I will handle your protocols, your nutrition, your training, but I'll equate for what you want. He's like, done. When do we chat? Yeah. He didn't even, when I messaged her and I was like, oh, do you know this guy? Like, is this your friend, your mate? And she's like, yeah, we grew up, we went to high school together. I was like, oh, did you refer him? Like, I run a referral system. Yeah. You help me out, I support you back. Free coaching or free face-to-face session. And she's like, no, he just follows your stuff and he's just like impressed with my results and like, obviously, whatever. I was like, to me, once you start getting those results, you don't need, and don't get me wrong, Brooklyn will kill me if I said we don't have good marketing systems, but like when you get that, you have marketability because you have social proof, you have social answers, you have problems that have been solved, you have that authority to a degree, even if it's inside your gym. So just get fucking hard in, dig in and work hard. 5-10 years. Stop with this time frame of, well, I've got to do this in 12 months or 2 years. I spent 3 years working full-time, going to uni, training, doing 2 preps. And each time I was like, oh, I got 6s in the subject, or 6s being like high distinctions. I was like, okay, so if this level of workload isn't affecting my result, what can I add next? What can I add next? Okay, how can I improve that? And now you just start, like I said, Peterson said, you use those years in your 20s with there's a high energy, that high mood, that high output to fucking find where you break. Because every time you think you're going to find where you break, you don't. And then you've got that next level to operate at. And I kind of call it or refer to it as mental, what do I call it? Cognitive progressive overload and cognitive hypertrophy, where the intent is to see under stress how I can improve my brain's ability to handle load and get better over time.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have days that was like, they were like KFC days. We used to call them sloth days. It was just like, my brain no longer works. And my stress response is lack of appetite. It's just like, and usually digestive upset as well. So it's just like, cool, I'm cooked. I feel all the symptoms. I know I don't want to go to work. I don't want to train. I don't want to get out of bed. This is like, everything has shut down. And then it's by like 5 o'clock that night, I'm like, all right, I need a bucket of chicken and to just like watch some shows.
Yeah.
And then the next day it's like, okay, we're back. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's just finding where that threshold is, I think, is really important. But yeah, I think the benefit that that you have now, the people coming up now, is the access to information that allows you to make less mistakes. So our thing is like, do the thing. Like we've got t-shirts coming out that's going to have do the thing on it. Because like everything you just said can be encapsulated in that. If you're not doing the thing, you're not learning. One thing I do want to say is the whole like, you learn nothing from your wins, only from your losses, is fucking bullshit.
You learn nothing from your wins, only from yeah, fuck oath. Absolutely.
It's like, well, how do you know how to win if you don't? It's like, well, I did it and I won. This is the code. Keep following the code.
Did this work over several people? Yes. Okay, cool. I've got a system here.
Yeah. So throw that out. Winning is actually good and you want to win. But you also learn from your failures as well. I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, putting that all together is, with the information you have access to now, you can make less mistakes. You can learn from more people and you can accelerate your results faster. Ultimately, though, you can't buy experience.
Yes.
You can't buy, what do I do in this scenario? What do I do with it when then this doesn't work? What do I do with this client? Or you can't buy that stuff. And that's where, like, cool, you maybe, like you said, have a mentor or someone to talk to or something like that that helps. But all these, the Hormozis, the Chris Williams, the Jordan Peterson, the STC, the Matter, we're here to allow you to go faster than what we did.
Yes.
But you will only go faster if you put in the reps.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to do, the young guys now aren't doing, I hope, 8-hour Rich Piana bicep workouts.
If they are, let me know how it went.
Because they have better access to better information and they probably are following some kind of programs. It's like, they're going to get better results when they're 16 than what we did.
Yes.
No different to personal training. You can exponentially improve the rate of progress, but you still have to do the bicep curls.
Yes. You still have to do the fucking work. That will always be, I think, the underlying premise to any form of success is like, it doesn't matter if you have the brainchild of fucking Einstein, whatever it is you want to have. Like, you could be the elite mental capacity. If you simply don't do it, it won't work. Like, no one's coming to you to be like, oh, you're the authority in hypertrophy and progressive overload and strength training and cognitive high performance. No, they're not, because you have no proof that what you said even works. Regardless of what's on paper, in theory, written down in the textbook, if you haven't found a way to apply it, no one gives a fuck what you have to say. And that is like plain as day, as simple as it is. And the best way for people to know that you can back up what you say is by just showing the reps and just dig in and fucking do it. And that transcends business into any sense of success that you want. Whatever you define your success criteria as, whether it's in your business, personal life, relationships, coaching, your own training, fucking whatever sport you're in, there is no substituting putting in the reps to get where you want to go. It's a foundational part of the equation that is almost first.
So funny, even now in our courses, it's like people go through the startup phase. So like that we talked about, like phone call consult sales.
Yep.
It's like, oh yeah, I've done it. I'm like, okay. How many in person? Oh no, I've done the module. It's like, we haven't done the module. So module's not done until you've done 20 consults.
Yeah.
When you've done 20 consults, you've done the module. Because reading it and listening to me tell you how you should structure conversations.
Yes.
Ain't it? Like, until you actually sit in front of someone and execute it and learn what language works and learn how to, I can't put on paper how to read someone's body language.
Yeah.
You have to go and do those reps. I can tell you exactly how to put together a sentence that gets the buy-in that you want.
Yep.
But you have to read what is contained in that sentence for them to buy in the first place and learn all those things. So yeah, watching, and I think I know I've done the like personal development masturbation shit, like the mental masturbation, where it's like, I listened to 400 podcasts this week. I'm smart. It's like, you didn't do anything. You just listen to shit.
Yeah. You listen to what you selectively wanted to listen to and thought that should improve me, instead of looking at your audience and going, well, what do they actually need from me to improve?
Yeah. So if you take anything from this podcast, go do something. Just something.
Fucking do it.
Because you already know what it is. Whatever. When I said go do something, you thought of something.
Yep. 100%.
Go do that.
Yep. When you heard us say, if you don't want to struggle, fuck off and go do something, you were like, yeah, fuck, I've been putting off struggling with that and don't want to do it. Great. Guess what? That's the thing you start doing. Just pick it. Just do it. You're not good at sales. Guess what? You know, you get better. Talk to people. Just literally start. And like you said, you know, going through your course, and it's not even dig your course. I look at like sales scripts as more of a template to be substituted into your language and your 100%. Demographic. If you take that sales script and go, but this is exactly what they said, and it didn't work. Tough shit. That's not how psychological communication works.
A script is a guided conversation, not a script. If it's done well. And you need to interpret that in your language, in your tone, in your conveyance with who you're talking to say, that's how I should have worded that. And you'll be able to reflect on that. Again, like this is what I had young Ewan write down. I'm like, I want you to be able to jot down consults went well, consults didn't go well. Where did you find you lost them? Where did you think you lost them? Where do you want them to be next time? Or, you know, where do you think that the conversation could have gone better? Reflect on it. And if you can't give me that, you don't want business success, because you need to be able to say, I fucked up here, or I lost the call here, or I lost the conversation here. I hit him up with a really good piece of advice that I was like, at any time, I was like, you go to the manager today and you say, I want the list, because all gym systems can print this out. I want the list of clients or members who haven't been contacted in 12 months by any trainer. And I want the list of clients who never claimed their free PT session. Because there will be a fucking thousand. The entire premise of a business gym model is sign up as many people as possible that don't want to come in, because we get money for doing nothing. So you look at that list of people who never claimed the stuff that they didn't even know was probably free, hit them up with that. Now you've got another 200 leads. I was like, so don't come and say the gym didn't provide me with X. You go, how do I get myself Y? Just take that and then get in the trench and call the numbers. Repeat that. And that's again, it's transcending fields. That's talking on multiple different fronts about how you can operate a business or your training, whatever. Set yourself up, take accountability, be responsible for the result, and just do the work and then assess. Mic drop.
I think it's pretty easy way to end what could be a very, very, very long ramble.
Yeah, that was good. I hope that there was some value in there for people.
I think there is, man. Between us, there's nearly 20 years of business and PT and study and coaching knowledge that, like you said, you can't price point experience. And I said it. So I know you guys do a similar thing, like what's happening this week. I sort of do like a month-to-month like business update episode for the podcast, where I believe there's breadcrumbs in how people succeed, and I believe in putting those out. So I don't care if there's 100 years time and someone comes through business like, well, how do I work with people? You find the matter page, you'll find a month-to-month update on how we got from 0 figures to fucking 7. And one of the things that I was saying was the biggest goal I have, or philosophy I have in coaching people in education, whether it be coaching other businesses, high performers, lead athletes, is shortchanging the distance from A to B based on my experience and knowledge. The whole point is for me to exist is that you don't have to spend 10 years figuring this shit out. And I think you guys are probably the same.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But mate, we will end it there. Otherwise, we'll just fucking explode into 45 more points about something else. So I'm almost certain there'll be another 3 or 4 of these in a series of rambles. We'll definitely tee up some more. One thing that everyone can take away from you, what do we take away from you in this conversation? How to get started? What is the number one piece of advice that you give a new business goer, a new coach, a new athlete, whatever, where to get started?
Number one piece of advice is literally, actually, let's hone it down. So do the thing is the tagline, right? Hone it down further what is the one thing that I could do today that would give the biggest outcome?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're new, that's picking up the phone.
Yep.
If you're slightly more established, it's making a resource. If it's
mm-hmm.
you're way down the line, it's like put out that YouTube video you've been talking about, or whatever it is. Like,
mm-hmm.
what's the one thing that would give you the biggest return?
Yep.
And then just do that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that every single day, you'll turn around and look at your business in 6 months and go, holy fuck, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. Fucking absolute business nugget right there. Completely agree. There's no other way really to finish that. So hit us with your details. Where do we find you? Obviously, we all know where we're going to find you, but if you're randomly stumbling upon this episode, where's all the deets? Where are we finding you? How do we get in touch?
Yeah, so most connected to this episode would be at stc.learn on Instagram, at STC Fit as well. And then myself is at Ben Scott STC. You will find all of us there, and you'll find links to the websites and free resources.
Yeah, you'll find Jason. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be on here eventually. He can talk about himself.
Yeah, he's next week. He's next week. I was like, oh, when can you fit, Jason?
Yeah.
Mate, I really appreciate your time. And like I said, there's going to be fucking 45 more of these before we're done our time, I'm sure. And no doubt when I come down to Melbourne for some of our lectures and presentations with Bros of Brains, we'll no doubt catch up and do some more shit there too.
Definitely.
All right, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, bro.
Guys.